Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today is Friday, so we're going to be taking a look at every other matchup for this weekend and doing some starts and sits for them. Just trying to help you guys out in that way. We'll be talking about some of the notable injuries, anything else I'm looking at for these guys going into this matchup. But with that being said, we'll get into it. We'll start off with the Bills and the Patriots. On the Bills side, we got Josh Allen. You can probably start him again this week. He hasn't been the greatest the last 2 weeks, but the Patriots defense is not quite as good as it's been in past years. Devin Singletary is a sit for me. He could be like a flex play if you need to, especially like if in a PPR league. Zach Moss is actually my start of the week for the Podcastic Network, a start-sit article. I think this is the game that he comes out, he does well. Patriots defense has not been too good against the run in the most recent weeks, and Moss has been the more efficient back when he's been out there. Stephon Diggs you can roll out as a start. Stephon Gilmore did injure his knee and he might miss this game. So it's definitely a very good matchup for him. John Brown, I'm probably going to sit. Gabriel Davis is going to be a sit. Cole Beasley, you could probably roll out like in your last wide receiver or flex spot if you're in a PPR league and you need somebody. Otherwise, he's going to be a sit for me as well. Dawson Knox is a sit. Bills defense, you can actually play in this one. Patriots offense hasn't been very good at all lately, so they're definitely a decent matchup. Then on the Patriots side, Cam Newton, he's going to be a sit unless you really need to play somebody and there's no clear better option. Patriots running backs, I'm pretty much avoiding all of them this week. I don't think anybody's really going to have a good game. You could probably start James White in a PPR league if you need to. N'Keal Harry, he has that concussion and he might miss this week, so he's going to be a sit for me. Damiere Byrd could be a start just because he's the last man standing. Julian Edelman's going to be a sit because he did have knee surgery, I believe, yesterday. Byrd and Myers might be the last two guys standing at this point, so maybe they're worth it if you really need to fill in a spot, but just don't expect too much from them. Ryan Izzo's a sit. I will mention Dalton Keene as well. He played last week. He's more of a receiving tight end. We'll have to see if they work him in more. Patriots defense, I'm probably going to sit in this one. Like I said, they haven't been quite as good as they've been in more recent years. Then we'll move over to the Titans and the Bengals game. And on the Titans side, we got Ryan Tannehill. He's going to be a start. Like I said, Ryan Tannehill is a start every week until he proves otherwise. Derrick Henry's an automatic start, especially in a good matchup. A.J. Brown, he's a start if he plays. He did have a little bit of a knee injury in practice yesterday, which kind of held him out, limited him a little bit. Just keep an eye on that going forward. Corey Davis, he's probably not somebody you want to start, but if Brown would miss, you could start him. Adam Humphries is going to be a sit. Jonnu Smith is a start. Very good matchup for him. Titans defense you can start as well. They were one of my favorite streaming defenses for the week if you guys haven't already seen my waiver wire and DFS videos. On the Bengals side, Joe Burrow is going to be a sit. He was actually my quarterback sit of the week. He hasn't done much outside of playing the Cleveland Browns. Joe Mixon's going to be a sit. Looks like he's not going to play in this one. Giovanni Bernard you can start in his place. Tyler Boyd, I think you can start pretty safely in this one. A.J. Green's going to be a sit for me. T. Higgins is kind of like a borderline guy. You could probably start him if you need to. If you have a better option, just roll with your better option. Drew Sample's a sit. And Bengals defense is also a sit. Then we'll move over to the Browns and the Raiders. So on the Browns side, Baker Mayfield, I like him as a streaming quarterback this week. The Raiders defense isn't that great overall. Could be a good matchup for him. So if you really need a streaming quarterback, he could be your guy. Kareem Hunt I like a lot this week. He's a very good start, especially against this Raiders defense. Jarvis Landry is going to be a start as well. No Odell Beckham Jr., so he should see some more targets. Rashard Higgins is kind of like if you need a fill-in wide receiver, you can play him as like your last wide receiver, your flex spot if you really need to. But otherwise, I'm going to sit him and just see what he does this week. Austin Hooper is going to be out after having his appendix removed, so he's going to be a sit as well. Look for him to come back in Week 10 after their bye week. Harrison Bryant, he is a decent streaming tight end. Not the best matchup in the world, but not a bad one by any means. He obviously produced pretty well last week in Hooper's absence, so he's definitely somebody you can consider. Browns defense is going to be a sit for me. Derek Carr is also another streaming quarterback in this matchup. He was actually my quarterback start of the week in our article. I think it's a great matchup for him. We obviously saw Joe Burrow throw for over 400 yards last week, so look for more of the same from Derek Carr. Josh Jacobs, he's a start. Kind of monitor his progress. He's been limited in practice all week. If he doesn't go, looks like Devontae Booker would probably be the next man up, with Jalen Richard seeing some of the passing work. Just kind of tamper expectations with Jacobs. If he doesn't play, Booker is definitely somebody you can plug and play if you need to. Henry Ruggs is going to be a sit for me this week. He's just not seeing enough targets to matter in fantasy yet. Nelson Aguilar is actually my wide receiver star of the week. He's shown good rapport with Derek Carr so far this year. He saw a season high 9 targets last week, and he scored in 3 straight games. So he's definitely looking a lot better this season, and I think he's somebody you can plug in as like your last wide receiver or a flex play and do all right with this week. Darren Waller is a start. He's pretty much a must start. He's the tight end number 3 for me. He's one of the most consistent tight ends there is. Raiders defense is going to be a sit. Then we got the Lions and the Colts. Matt Stafford, he's going to be a start for me this week. Just tamper your expectations against a very good Colts defense. If you have a better option, you can roll your better option out there. Adrian Peterson is going to be a sit. Once again, Colts defense is very good, and he's just splitting time with DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift you could probably play as a low-end running back 2 or a flex play this week. Just tamper your expectations for him. Kenny Galladay is somebody I do love a lot in this matchup. Do feel comfortable starting him. Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson are both going to be sits for me. I think it's going to be more of a Galladay day than anything, especially against this tough Colts defense. Then the Lions defense we're going to sit as well. They have shown improvements in recent weeks, and Phillip Rivers is a little bit turnover prone, so if you really needed somebody to throw in, like last ditch, they could be all right. Then Phillip Rivers is going to be a sit. Like I said, he hasn't been too good overall this year. I know he did have over 300 yards against the Bengals, but he still hasn't been that good this year, honestly. Jonathan Taylor is a start. I think he'll have a pretty good game in this one. Nyheim Hines is going to be a sit. The Colts wide receivers, I'm sitting all of them. Nobody's really stood out at this point. T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal, and Marcus Johnson did have a big game last week, but I won't expect it to continue. Michael Pittman Jr. did return to practice this week. He's been designated on IR, so he has 3 weeks to come back, which is great news for him after his injury that he did suffer, but he's not going to factor into this game. Trey Burton is going to be a start for me. I like him as a tight end this week, especially as somebody you can stream and has some future upside value as well. Colts defense, you can play in this one. You might want to tamper your expectations just a little bit, since the Lions offense is pretty decent. Then we got the Vikings and the Packers. Kirk Cousins, he's going to be set for me this week. He has not looked too good this year, so don't expect that to change this week. Dalvin Cook is a start. Looks like he's going to play in this one. So as long as he's playing, you roll him out. If he doesn't play for some reason, Alexander Madison would be the next guy up. Then we have Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is going to be a start in this game. He played pretty well against the Packers the first time this year. Justin Jefferson's also a start. I'm not sure if the Packers will have Kevin King in this one. He's kind of questionable. So there could be good news for Jefferson. Kyle Rudolph's a sit. Irv Smith Jr. is kind of like a borderline guy. If you really need a tight end needy team and there's not much out there, you could play him and he'll probably do all right for you this week. Vikings defense is going to be a sit against this high-powered Packers offense. Then on the Packers side, we got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be a start. Obviously, he torched the Vikings the first game this year. Then we have Aaron Jones. Looks like he's not going to play. They're going to give him another week off with his little calf injury. So Jamal Williams becomes the start in this matchup. Should have a pretty good game overall. Devontae Adams is a must start. He torched this Vikings defense week 1. Look for more of the same this week. MVS is going to be a sit. Robert Tonyan is going to be a sit. He was actually my tight end sit of the week for our article. And the Packers defense, I think you can stream in this matchup. Like I've been saying, I got the kickers on here, but I haven't been talking too much about them. Most of them are pretty much the same week to week. Mason Crosby does have like a little bit of a calf injury. Questionable for the game. Just something to keep an eye on. Then we have the Jets and the Chiefs. And on the Chiefs side, we got Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be a start. Jets defense is not very good overall. Jets team overall is not good at all. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you can start in this one. Le'Veon Bell, you could probably start like as a flex play if you really need to, especially like a PPR league or so. Definitely a revenge game for him. So look for him to get a little bit more work in this game. Demarcus Robinson, McCall Hardman, I'm going to sit both of them. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you're going to start both of them. Chiefs defense, you can definitely start in this one against the poor Jets offense. And on Jets side, Sam Darnold's going to be a sit. Didn't look too good in his return last week. Frank Gore's a sit. LaMichael Pirine, you could start him kind of like a low-end running back 2 flex play if you really, really need to. He should see most of the passing game work, so he should be involved in the game more often than not. Rashard Perriman does have a concussion. Looks like he's not going to play so far. He hasn't cleared protocol. He hasn't practiced all week, so we'll just have to see how that looks later today. Denzel Mims, he's somebody that's kind of interesting. He could have a good game in this one, but he's not somebody you can trust. And then Jamison Crowder, he did return to practice in a limited fashion, so we'll have to see whether or not he plays this week. If he plays, you can start him. Chris Herndon's a sit, and Jets defense is obviously a sit as well. Then we have the Rams and the Dolphins. Jared Goff, I think he's kind of like a borderline streamable guy. If you don't have a better option out there, if you don't like to match up your quarterbacks in, you can throw him in and he shouldn't do too poorly. Then on the Rams side, we'll just kind of watch these running backs. Darrell Henderson was kind of banged up, but it looks like he's going to play. So he's going to be a start. Malcolm Brown, probably like a borderline flex play in a PPR league if you really, really need someone. Cam Akers is obviously a sit at this point in time. Robert Woods, for me, is borderline. If you have a better option, play your better option. If you don't, you can play him. Then Cooper Kupp, I do like a lot this week as a slot wide receiver. Miami Dolphins have struggled against the slot wide receiver overall. So he's definitely a start. Tyler Higbee, it looks like he has a chance not to play this week, actually. I thought he'd be back, but not looking like it. He's going to be a sit. If he doesn't play, Gerald Everett could be a plug-and-play tight end this week if you need somebody to stream. Rams defense, you can play in this one against rookie Tua Tagovailoa. They should do pretty well for you. Like I said, I'll mention a couple kicker notes. Kai Forbath takes over as the kicker. Sam Sloman was released earlier this week. The Dolphins side, we got Tua. Tua's going to be a sit in his first start. I don't expect very good things from him, especially in this first start against a pretty decent Rams defense. Myles Gaskin, you can start in this one. Just kind of tamper your expectations from him. We don't know how much he's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield with Tua taking over now. The rest of the Dolphins, I don't want to start, honestly. I don't want to start Parker. I don't want to start Williams. And I don't want to start Gesicki. Gesicki was actually my start of the week, but it's like a premature. I think he could do all right, but I'm not positive it. If I'm playing in a league and I have other options, I'd rather start other options because I don't know where Tua is going to throw the ball. Dolphins defense is going to be a sit as well. Then we got the Steelers and the Ravens. For Big Ben, I would sit him this week. Ravens defense is very good overall. I don't think he's going to have the best game in the world. So if you have a better option, just play your better option. James Conner, I believe you can start this week. He should be all right. He's going to get enough volume to matter. Juju is more like a sit for me this week. I just don't know how well he's going to do. If I'm starting any of these wide receivers, it's probably going to be Deontay Johnson, but I'm kind of fading all of them going against this Ravens defense. Eric Ebron's going to be a sit as well. Steelers defense, you can start. Just tamper your expectations. They might not do as well as some other weeks. Then for the Ravens side, we got Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's pretty much a must start. It might not be his greatest game, but his rushing upside is just too great, especially if Mark Ingram doesn't play, which it doesn't look like he's going to play. So Mark Ingram is obviously a sit in that case. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, you could probably play one of these guys if you need to. Low end running back 2, flex play. Dobbins has a little bit more upside as he has a little bit more burst, but Edwards could see more of the carries and workload. But just keep in mind they're going against Pittsburgh, who's been very good against the run. So if you do play either one of them, just tamper your expectations. Dobbins would probably be better in PPR. Gus Edwards would be better in standard. Then Marquise Brown, I'm going to sit. Just hasn't been a very good year for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a nice little game in this one, but I'm not going to expect it, and I'm not going to trust to start him this week. Mark Andrews, you can start. Ravens defense, you can start. Then we got the Broncos and the Chargers. So on the Broncos side, we got Drew Lock. He's going to be a sit until he shows us anything. Melvin Gordon, you can start him this week. It looks like Philip Lindsay might not play. So it's definitely a decent matchup for Melvin Gordon. Should have a decent week. Philip Lindsay is going to be a sit. He's got that concussion. Don't think he's going to play. Tim Patrick's been battling a hamstring injury, so he's probably not going to play. So that would make him a sit. Jerry Jeudy, could he step up with Tim Patrick out? That would be the big question in this one. You could probably start him if you really need to, you really need a wide receiver or a flex play. If you're looking for somebody to just kind of throw out there, hopefully he hits a big week. Could be him this week. Noah Fant is going to be a start. Not too much to say there. He's kind of been Drew Lock's favorite wide receiver. Keep in mind, Albert O did see 7 targets as well last week, so maybe they start running a little bit two tight end sets using these very athletic tight ends. Broncos defense is going to be set for me. You could probably throw them out. They probably won't be the worst in the world, but against Justin Herbert, I'm not going to trust them. Justin Herbert's going to be a start. I think he just keeps his streak rolling. Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, I'm pretty much avoiding both these 2 running backs until one of them really takes over, where we see more from them. Both of them weren't very good against Jacksonville last week overall. Mike Williams is going to be a sit. It could be a good matchup for him, but he's just not seeing the targets when Keenan Allen does play as well. Keenan Allen's going to be a start. Hunter Henry, you can start as well. Chargers defense, you can start, especially since Drew Lock hasn't looked that good since returning from injury. We got the Bears and the Saints next. Nick Foles is going to be a sit. It's been pretty messy offense for Chicago overall. David Montgomery, you can start, just tamper your expectations as the Saints do have a very good run defense. Allen Robinson is in concussion protocol, so there's a chance he doesn't play. If he plays, you can start him. If he doesn't play, you obviously sit him. Anthony Miller and Darnell Mooney. Mooney could take a step up if Robinson doesn't play. Maybe if he doesn't play, you can kind of stream him, just roll him out there, see if he does anything, if you really need a wide receiver or a flex play. But just don't expect too much from him overall. Jimmy Graham's going to be a sit for me this week. I know he's got a good matchup, but he just hasn't done much lately. Bears defense, you can probably get away with starting, but don't expect too much from them. On the Saints side, you can start Drew Brees in this one. I think he'll have a decent little game. Just a low-end quarterback one at this point, though. Alvin Kamara is a must-start. Latavius Murray is going to be a sit for me. Michael Thomas, if he does play, you start him. Emmanuel Sanders still dealing with some COVID. He's going to be out in this one, so he's a sit. Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. I'm not going to trust either of them in this matchup. Last week it was Callaway. Other times it's been Smith. Just sit both of them. Jared Cook could be a play, especially if Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders both don't play. And then the Saints defense, I think you can roll out in this one. Bears offense hasn't been too good overall. Then we have the Seahawks and the 49ers. So Russell Wilson's a must start. Seattle Seahawks running backs. This is very messy. Yesterday, DJ Dallas was the only running back to practice for the Seahawks. So if you're out there in a league, especially PPR, he's a great receiver out of the backfield. He's a former wide receiver in college, converted to running back. Now he's a running back in the NFL, obviously. But if you're out there and you just want to take a flyer on a guy, go out and grab him today before the matchups, because he's the guy that could be a streaming candidate if Chris Carson doesn't play with his foot sprain, if Carlos Hyde doesn't play with his hamstring sprain or his hamstring issue, and then Travis Homer's dealing with a knee issue as well. And even if it's Homer and Dallas might still get enough work to be a viable flex play in PPR at least. Then we have DK Metcalf. Honestly, he's a start, but I don't think he's going to have that good a week. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up kind of how it was last week. I don't think Lockett's going to get 15 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns, though. But I think he's going to have a nice week, and I think DK might be the one that struggles a little bit more in this matchup. Then Greg Olson's going to be a sit. Seahawks defense is a sit as well. Then on the 49ers side, we got Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a low-end streaming quarterback if you don't have any other better options going against Seattle's poor defense. Then we have the San Francisco backfield. Looks a little messy, honestly. They got Jerick McKinnon, Tevin Coleman, hopefully coming back from IR, and JaMychal Hasty. A lot of people have been hyping up JaMychal Hasty. I don't see it this week, honestly. I don't think he's going to do that. So I see this backfield going one of 3 ways. Coleman comes back, and McKinnon gets 30%, Coleman gets 40%, and Hasty gets 30%. Or that Coleman comes back, and he's just kind of like the emergency running back. So maybe McKinnon and Hasty split pretty much 50-50. Coleman might get 5% of the workload in that case. Or Coleman misses and McKinnon and Hasty both split 50-50. I think the back to own this week could be McKinnon, especially if you play in PPR leagues. But with that being said, I'm not really trusting it to start any of them at this point. We'll see how today's practice turns out and if we hear any more news on Saturday as well. Brandon Ayuk, you can start. If you have better options, you can obviously play your better options, but it's a good matchup for him overall. George Kittle is a must-start, obviously. And the 49ers defense is going to be a set going against Seattle's offense this week. Then we move over to the Sunday night game. We got the Cowboys versus the Eagles. And this one might not have as many fantasy implications, honestly. Ben DiNucci is going to be a sit, obviously rookie quarterback in his first game. You don't want to play him. Ezekiel Elliott, he's a start, but he's more like a running back 2 at this point. Honestly, just tamper your expectations with him, especially playing on behind offensive line that has been very banged up and a rookie quarterback. Amari Cooper, you can start, probably more like a wide receiver 3 this week. Gallup and Lamb, I'm going to set both of them this week. I wouldn't be surprised if Gallup has a decent game, but it's just really risky at this point. Same thing with Dalton Schultz. Cowboys defense is obviously a sit as they're the worst defense in the league. And then on the Eagles side, you can start Carson Wentz. He's a decent streaming candidate this week. Miles Sanders looks like he's not going to play. If he doesn't play, then Boston Scott's going to be the guy, and you can start Boston Scott in a very, very good matchup. But if Miles Sanders does play, then you're going to want to roll Sanders out because it is a good matchup. I just don't expect them to do it at this point. I believe they have a bye week next week too, so they're probably going to hold him out through the bye week. Just make sure he's healthy for the rest of the season. Jalen Reagor looks like he's going to be back in this one. I would not start him this week. I'd sit him. Just wait and see how he plays. Travis Fulgham, you can start. It's a good matchup for him. Greg Ward's going to be a sit. Then Richard Rodgers is a start. Looked pretty good last week, and it's a good matchup overall. So if you need a tight end, he's definitely a guy you can plug and play this week. Eagles defense, you can start. Obviously, I talked about the Cowboys starting a rookie quarterback and having offensive line issues at this point. The Eagles defense should be a pretty strong play as well this week. Then we have the Monday night game, which is the New York Giants and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the Giants side, we got Daniel Jones. He's going to be a sit. Wayne Gallman, Deion Lewis. Looks like Devonta Freeman's going to be out this week. Gallman would be the guy here, but I guess it's tough. Buccaneers defense, you do not want to start either of these guys. Darius Slayton's going to be a sit. Sterling Shepard, you could start. Just kind of tamper your expectations with him, and you probably have a better option on your team, honestly. Evan Ingram is going to be a sit for me. Giants defense is obviously a sit as well. Tom Brady's going to be a start. Should be a pretty good matchup for him. Ronald Jones, you could probably start as a low-end running back 2, high-end flex. Leonard Fournette is where it gets interesting. You can probably start him, just tamper your expectations for both these guys. If you need a running back, you can play Fournette. If you don't, just don't play him. Mike Evans is a good start this week. We'll have to see how he does against James Bradbury if James Bradbury does shadow him. But Evans should have a good week, especially with Chris Godwin missing. So Chris Godwin's obviously a sit. Scotty Miller, you could play in a PPR league. Just know that he has been the whack-a-mole this year. So every time he does well is when he's not in starting lineups. When you put him in your starting lineups, he does poorly. Take him with a grain of salt. If you need a guy, you could plug and play him if you really need to. Rob Gronkowski, I think you can start in this one. Not the greatest matchup in the world, but not the worst either. Cameron Brate's also going to be a sit. And then Tampa Bay's defense is a must-start this week. But that's all the starts and sits for the other 13 remaining matchups for this week. So the 4 teams on bye this week are the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, Washington Football Team, and the Arizona Cardinals. So if you have any of those players, just make sure they're out of your lineups. Hopefully talking through some of these teams, the starts and sits, kind of the news, on injury updates, helped you all. If you guys have any more questions about starts and sits for this week, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. Otherwise, you can reach out to me at my email at coachcraigsports@gmail.com, on Twitter at coachcraigsport, or on the Coach Craig Sports Facebook page. If you guys liked and enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. And with that being said, if you are a new or current subscriber who has yet to do so, also hit that little notification bell down below. It'll let you know every single time that I post up a video. Like I've been saying, if you guys haven't seen my videos before, I post up about 5 videos a week, Monday through Friday. Also, be sure to check out my articles on the Podcasting Network. I got the link to their site in the description below as well. The other big news is my best friend and I, we recently started a football podcast. It's called the 2 Point Podcast. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So far, we did a little bit of the matchup previews, kind of like this, but not the starts and sits, just a matchup preview of what we're looking for in each game. But going forward, we'll be doing a weekly recap and then kind of the preview for the week. We'll be talking about some other football news here and there as it comes along. But be sure to check that out as well. Would really appreciate it if you guys support our efforts with that as well. Hopefully this video helped you out with some of the starts and sit decisions you guys are facing this week. And with that being said, have a great rest of your day.